Season 2 of The Last of Us is finally underway on HBO as we follow Joel and Ellie a few years after the events of the first season. This season is set to follow the second game in the series, The Last of Us Part 2, which was well received by everybody for its gameplay, design, and performances, but its narratives and themes were a bit divisive. The first game is considered one of the greatest games of all time, and the first season of the show got tons of accolades as well. The Last of Us Part 2 was well received by critics, but not so much by the audience. And all of the things that made The Last of Us Part 2 work aren't necessarily things that will translate over to a TV show. Things such as gameplay don't exist in simply watching a show, graphics don't matter because it's real life, and the performances are all different because, once again, it's real life, not just voiceovers. You do have some people reprising their characters from the game, but obviously it's a very different cast from game to show. The audience did not respond well to the story, and I won't get into the major plot points until they happen, but those who do know the game know why. I feel like there are a couple major aspects of the game that people didn't like, and before we go any further, just know these will all be spoiler heavy, but I will try not to spoil anything that hasn't already been done on the show. I will also preface my review of this show and recaps every week by saying I did not play the second game. I did play the first, and I loved the first game and first season of the show, both the similarities to the game and the things that were changed. I think episode 3 of season 1 with Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett is one of the best episodes of television ever created. When the second game came out, I just happened to be in the midst of playing other stuff and didn't really get to it before I saw all of the hate, and I just really never got to it. But I am interested in seeing how this season goes. I like that they added Hallie Gross to the writing team since she was the narrative lead on the game, and she was also a writer on Westworld Season 1, which I consider the best season of television ever. She wrote episode 7 of that season where Bernard, played by Jeffrey Wright, who was both in the second game and the second season of The Last of Us, finds out that he's a robot, and I think it's one of the great twists in TV history. But those that know the story know a storm is coming, and I think we're all on edge to see when and how it happens. My wife couldn't wait, was impatient, and asked what happened, and when I told her, she instantly shut down on the story of the second game and subsequently the second season of the show, but she's still watching it to see it through. We've also been told that the story of Part 2 will span multiple seasons. The show has been renewed for Season 3, and it seems like that means we'll at least get Part 2 to extend through that. Beyond that, though, who knows if we'll ever get anything original in Season 4 and beyond. Season 2 only consists of 7 episodes, while Season 1 had 9, so I assume that means we'll get 2 slightly smaller seasons to make up the whole Part 2 story. So with all of that said, let's dive into the Season 2 premiere. The first episode is titled Future Days after the Pearl Jam song that was in the game, and it starts off with kind of 2 scene setters. First, a replay of the final scene from Season 1 where Joel swears to Ellie that his story about the Fireflies is true. To catch you up, if you don't remember, the whole story of Season 1 was that Ellie is immune to the infection that was turning everyone else into zombie-like creatures, so Joel was tasked with taking her across the country from Boston to Salt Lake City so they could study her and try to develop a cure. However, Joel found out that meant they would have to study her brain, which would in fact kill her, and he was too attached to let that happen because Ellie had essentially come to feel like his daughter. As we saw in the beginning, his daughter was killed when the outbreak started. We also see a scene of a girl named Abby and a few other people burying bodies of the Firefly members who were killed by Joel in Salt Lake City. Abby vows to get revenge on Joel for killing all of them and wants to kill him slowly to make him suffer. However, she is dissuaded from going straight after Joel at that point and that they need to go regroup in Seattle first. We then see a 5-year time jump and we see that Joel and Ellie are living in Jackson, Wyoming, where his brother Tommy lives that we saw in the first season. Ellie and Joel have become estranged from one another, with Joel still feeling like Ellie is his daughter, but she really does not feel the same way. Ellie is learning how to fight from a guy named Jesse who used to date a girl named Dina. Dina has now become close with Joel as he teaches her various things in the town. Dina and Ellie are also friends, and they go on patrol one day and clear out a group of infected at an abandoned supermarket. However, Ellie encounters a new type of infected that seems to be a little smarter than the others. She kills it, but it bites her, and she has to hide it because there's still fear that another bite may actually infect her. Meanwhile, Joel is meeting with Gail, who is a psychotherapist who resents him for killing her husband, Eugene. We don't know Eugene or see him or know the circumstances behind it, but I can only assume it's because he got infected. Maybe we'll see a little more of that later. Gail asks Joel to be truthful and asks if he has ever hurt Ellie, and he responds by saying, "No, I actually saved her." Now, we all know why that's actually somewhat of a bad thing, but we're seeing the rest of the people in the story slowly but surely start to learn the truth. They celebrate New Year's Eve, and at a party, Dina and Ellie kiss, which prompts a homophobic slur from Seth, a police officer in the town. Joel attacks Seth, and that makes Ellie upset, saying, "Hey, I don't need your protection." The episode ends as we see the infection spreading through a pipe that is being worked on in the town, and we see Abby and her friends arrive in the distance. In the look ahead, we see more of what is to come. I mentioned Seattle, and that includes the Washington Liberation Front, which is a militia group in the game that is integral to the story and kind of takes the place of the Fireflies. There's also a religious cult called the Seraphites in the game who will be involved eventually, and you see a little of them in the look ahead, but we haven't seen them yet. Like I said, I haven't played the game, but I have seen some of this in the look ahead to the rest of the season, and I do know the overall story. We're all waiting for certain things to happen in the game, and who knows when they will happen, but I do think this was a good stage setter and kind of opening chapter for the second season and the part 2 story. I will be interested to see how they split the game up and, if it'll make the season drag or feel hurried depending on when they decide to stop to go into season 3. I do wish we had more Joel in this episode, but I know that the game has more of a focus on Ellie in part 2. I thought Pedro Pascal played the whole tortured parent who still has to be strong for the community angle very well. Ellie has made it very clear she does not want Joel to be her dad, but Joel very much yearns to have a daughter again. I do hope we get some flashback scenes of the previous 5 years to show how that relationship strained, and knowing what I know about the game, I assume we'll get that. I also hope we get more between Joel and Gale, because it seems like I've seen a ton of both Pedro and Catherine O'Hara lately, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. They played off each other well, and maybe we'll get a flashback of why Joel killed her husband. So while I know major plot points in the Cliff Notes version of the second game, I don't know the ins and outs of the story, so I am excited to ultimately see it play out. So what did you think of the opening episode of Season 2, and what are your expectations of the show this season? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like this video and subscribe as we'll continue to do Last of Us recaps, plus more TV recaps. We just finished The White Lotus, Black Mirror, some movie reviews, and so much more right here on The Pop Culture Life.